Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Michael Hall. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. And the title of tonight's episode is the Philly Preview. I lied to you guys on Sunday by saying our next episode would be after the game on Thursday. But you know what? We couldn't let this primetime matchup go away from us. We had to do a preview. I'm not saying it's going to be brief, but it probably won't be a full episode depending on how hot and heavy things get in here. But being through Zoom, it would kind of be difficult to do that. But first off, want to get your opinion on a question. Like, we have fan questions submitted, but I want to get your opinion on the injured players possibly returning versus Philly. I know Brian Robinson had tweeted out today there's a great chance that he could play on Thursday night. So what are you thinking about that? I know Brandon Coleman has been limited. Cornelius Lucas has been limited for 2 practices this week. How are you feeling about the injured guys?
Yeah, I think that Brian Robinson will be out there on Thursday night, barring like some crazy like tightness, like on Thursday morning, afternoon, whatever it may be. Knock on wood. I think that Andrew Wiley will be back out there at right tackle this upcoming week because just going off base what he said, it was very close on Sunday, but I guess they decided to just let him rest up a little bit and let him heal up a little bit more and get ready for this primetime divisional matchup.
He was active on Sunday. I know we were
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was more of like if Trent Scott, like kind of turns into Trent Scott. No offense to Trent Scott, but if Trent Scott turns into Trent Scott, hey, let's get Wiley out there or maybe if Trent Scott gets injured, we got Wiley active. But anyway, Coleman and Lucas, I think Dan Quinn said that he was going to start practicing again this week. So I would expect those guys. I know Coleman, obviously, he's a rookie. He's probably nicked up, banged up. He's kind of hitting that rookie wall, so to speak, that a lot of rookies hit in that first year, I would say. But I would say hopefully he's just getting limited, like resting, because I know Dan Quinn has a really good pulse on the team as far as like rest and health and stuff like that. But, yeah, only person I'm really worried about would obviously be the big dog, the big name, Lattimore. And it looks like it's trending towards him not playing. And I know everyone's like freaking out about that. Like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Doom and gloom. But I'd rather have him, and I said this on Twitter, I'd rather have him when like the more important games, like obviously this is an important game. I'm not saying it's not, but the important stretch of games as far as like January football and going into the playoffs, because if he's getting him going like down the stretch and coming into his own down the stretch, and then he starts hitting his stride coming into the playoffs, that's when this defense might be scary. So if he doesn't play tomorrow night or Thursday night, it is what it is. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the injuries.
Yeah, the new guy was a do not practice for the first 2 practices of this week. Obviously, tomorrow will be the most physical of the practices. Austin Seibert himself did not practice, which obviously we feel really good about Zane Gonzalez. He kicked all the field goals he needed to on Sunday, but it's always going to be a concern without Cyborg out there. Brandon Coleman dealing with the shoulder injury. But Tyler Badass, he had 3 separate injuries, his ribs, a thumb, and a foot. I mean, he is what you'd really call an offensive lineman, and the fact that he didn't come out in that game, he continued to stay in there. And obviously quarterbacking is different, but just saying on there, yeah, you'll say, yeah, like thumb and the foot, that's not too much of a concern. Foot is, but the ribs being in there as well, I mean, it's just going to show you that is a badass, and that's the reason why that is his nickname.
I was listening to like Beamich and Finley the other day, and JP was actually talking about badass, and he's like, man, like they were talking about like how Cam Hayward was like, what I'm saying, kind of like beating him on a couple reps here and there. They were getting pressure on the inside, and he was just like, yeah, he's like, yeah, badass man. Like he's dealing with a lot. Like he's playing through it. Like he's a tough dude. But yeah. So for like to see everything like listed up and piled over there, I'm like, damn, dude is definitely like going through it right now.
Yeah, and I saw that on Facebook. Facebook is the worst place to go to just to see crazy stuff. But some Steelers page had posted that Dan
Oh,
Quinn
jeez.
had submitted into the league for us to replay the game against the Steelers or like that drive or something because of the spot. And it's like, okay, I get the bit. This is just a bit now. That's all it is. And it's like people are submitting that into like the Commanders fan group pages where you just see some of the craziest stuff, man. And
I was gonna say Facebook pages, fan pages. That's like the kooky stuff. Like I don't even know. It's like the crazy stuff.
it's where you go where people spell names wrong,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. That's like the guys that call in, like the callers that call in on like the weekends and like the 106 or like 980 or something. It's just like they start off with everything. I've been a fan of this team since. I'm sorry. Next station.
I love that bit. The older fans have to tell you how many years they've been watching it. They have to let you know, which makes him an expert on the subject. Of course, but I'm not. I'm an idiot myself. I'm not here to judge. Okay, but let's start breaking down this game. First one I want to ask you is how do you limit Philly's offense? Because the Eagles right now in red zone conversion percentage they're 10th, in points per game they're tied for 7th, in passing yards they're 20th, and they're second in rushing yards.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
And obviously, it starts with Saquon. That's
Yeah,
the one thing that you have to take into consideration.
exactly. And now Jalen Hurts is looking like he's well, not even looking like he's been getting active in the run game as well. He's been looking like the Jalen Hurts in the run, not in the run game, not like really the passing game as far as like what he was a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl run, but he's definitely looking like the Jalen Hurts that was involved in the run game, like with Shane Steichen and coaching him up. And I
Doing a
think that
great job with those quarterback sneaks, like
yeah, I know.
like prime Jalen Hurts.
and yeah, so like you said, it starts with Saquon. You're gonna have to. It's like this might be one of those games where, um, kind of like that Ravens game where obviously you got a guy like Zay Flowers on the outside, which is AJ Brown is Zay Flowers times 10, like literally in size and in play wise. But and then you got a guy like Devontae Smith, who's also a great number two weapon. You're gonna have to kind of do like the Ravens game where it's like, hey, so we're gonna have to sell out to stop one of these things. We want to sell out to stop Derrick Henry and see what happens on the back end and take our chances, or are we gonna sell out to stop the passing game and Lamar dicing us up, and let's let Derrick Henry beat us and hopefully we can get a stop or two here and there on a drive. So I think with this one, it's going to be almost the same thing where it's like, are we going to sell all the way out to stop Saquon so that he doesn't destroy us and kill us? And we're going to take our chances on the back end, and hopefully we can get a stop or two, get a turnover, get some pressure on Jalen Hurts, make some plays in that way? Or are we going to sell out on the back end and say, hey, Saquon, you can kill us all you want. Let's just not give up the huge play, the huge like Saquon killer back breaking play, the 80-yard run, the 67-yard run, and let's just sell out to stop AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert in this passing game from killing us. So it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be interesting to see what Joe Witt does. Me personally, I would say sell out to stop Saquon, take your chances on the back end, and see how it goes.
Well, obviously, like you, I know you were going to say this, and it wasn't in the form of the question. But one of the ways that you can limit Philly's offense is by running the ball well offensively for the Commanders, liquidating the clock, right,
Right.
and being
Yeah,
able to
time of possession.
convert those points. Right now, the Eagles defense right now they're third in red zone conversion percentage, third in passing yards, fifth in rushing yards per game. Obviously, for them, they are going to try to limit Jaden Daniels like the Steelers did, and obviously execution is very much different in that breadth, and the injuries go a lot into what happened on Sunday. But we're not going back to that. We're focused on Thursday. So I think obviously running the football effectively, liquidating that clock, forcing them to kind of get into those throwing situations. But this is a fascinating question because you have to ask yourself, what if you had to pick? Would you limit? Would you sell out to be able to stop the throw, or would you sell out to stop Saquon and Jalen Hurts from using their legs? And obviously, Saquon could even beat you through the air. We know that
Yeah.
very well. Very athletic dude. We don't want him seeing him jumping over anybody. Making sure you're watching those tackles when you are tackling. You're watching that tackle through, taking him to the ground, right? And Reed,
Well, I
if
think that's going to be big this week.
yeah, and Reed this obviously would be harping on his legs, of course, because he always talks about his thighs and how thick they
He's a
are.
thick boy, as he would
Yeah.
say.
But for me personally, like looking at this game and seeing that they're 20th in passing yards, the Eagles offensively, but Washington, they're 5th in passing yards on defense. So for me, I'm selling out on the run. Because what we don't want to happen is what the Steelers did to us, where they liquidate the clock, they keep the yardage on third down short and manageable and being able to extend the chains, right? So if I want to do this, I want to stop Saquon. I want to stop Jalen Hurts. I want to force them into those longer third downs in order for us to pin our ears back and to get after the quarterback. They're 23rd in sacks on offense, so they give up about 3 sacks a game. And Washington right now, they're 14th in sacks. So if I'm betting on anything, it's going to be that, because I know Jason Simmons and this coaching staff, who's the pass game coordinator, Joe Witt, Dan Quinn, they've done a very good job with the secondary in the terms of being able to stifle the passing game enough or limit it enough to the point where teams almost like have to run the ball at the end of the game in order to get yardage on us. They've done a very good job in that breadth. And so I know the nightmares of AJ Brown. I know they have Dallas Goedert, who is heating up as of late, have him in fantasy. So he's been utilized a little bit more in the last couple weeks, obviously coming back from injury himself, but that's somebody you also have to keep your eye on. But just for me personally, I think that what you're doing well right now is limiting that passing attack, and obviously getting after the quarterback is huge in that regard. The Eagles are very good up front, but they are getting Mailata back, one of their tackles. So one of those situations where you want to force them into those passing downs, focus on stopping Saquon, giving them those long third down and distances, and then pinning your ears back and getting after Jalen Hurts. I think that that's probably the recipe that you can best go with and say that that's going to be something that is crucial. But obviously, another key is going to be the turnovers. And we talked about that last week on Wednesday. This couldn't be the special teams turnover game, and inevitably it ended up happening, but it is what it is. And I will say that to this one as well. You can't allow it to be easy, and obviously that's going to be every key for every game is limiting the turnovers. But I'm just saying. Now, next question I have, must nots. Something Washington must not do.
Well, the main one you just listed is turn the ball over. You can't give them short fields. You can't give their offense more chances, more bites at the apple, because this is a potent offense. This is an offense that can score from anywhere on the field. This is an offense that can really kind of do like kill you like slowly, as far as like kill you with the running game, bleed the clock out. They can line up and say, all right, let's throw a bomb to Devontae Smith or AJ Brown, or they can eat you up in the middle of the field with Dallas Goedert or Devontae Smith or AJ Brown. So, or like you said, you can use Saquon in the passing game as well. Mismatches on linebackers, safeties, and whatnot. So, this is a offense that definitely is going to keep defensive coordinators up at night. But I would say that what was the question again?
Must not.
Oh, must not. Yeah, like you said, must not turn the ball over, because, like I said, you can't get this offense too many bites at the apple. You got to limit their chances and their time of possession on the field, so that, like I said, they can't score from anywhere at any point in time.
Yep, and it was released today that Washington will be wearing the white on whites in Philly. And if you can go back to that Sean Taylor diving touchdown, it just brings you back those
Mm-hmm.
memories. Washington plays well in Philly. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the hate coming from,
It's
like,
the
you can just
stank in
smell.
the air.
You just smell that stank just coming
They
over
get
from the
so
river.
mad. They're like, man, we got to play in this stanky ass state. Like,
Man, dude, I would love to be at that game. Obviously, it's
I
not
know.
like it is, probably like 2.5 hours away, but fact is, I would still be rocked out in my gear. I don't care. Pour all the beer
Oh,
on
yeah,
me.
I'd be all up in the crowd. Now, would I be talking as much crap as I would at normal places? I'd probably scale it back a little bit, but I'd still be out there. I'd still hold it down.
Definitely hold it down. Must not for me is missed tackles. This is a game where you
Yep.
cannot have missed tackles, especially on that running back, especially on those big wide receivers. You have to be able to be a physical, aggressive team in that regard. When you are getting your body on body, you got to make sure it's coming with force. It cannot be a thing where they are taking their will out on you, especially in this sort of game. Being a divisional matchup, heading for the first in the NFC East, this has to be a kind of statement game to say this is no joke, because everyone likes to say Washington hasn't beat anybody over 500, whatever have you, all that nonsense they want to say.
Those
But
are also dumb people,
I know
because you can literally just look
Arizona.
at the Arizona
I
Cardinals
know,
record.
I know. But fact, and if Washington lost that game, they would have been over 500 anyway. But that's neither here nor there, sir.
Exactly.
So the missed tackles is a must not for me. That's one of those things where if you are getting on the body, you got to bring him down. You cannot allow the second chance yardage. We saw a little bit of it last week, but for the most part, they did a good job, and obviously they're on the field a heck of a whole lot. And so you can't allow those second yardage to get up to make that third down conversion a little bit easier. You got to make sure you're getting them down as far away from that first down marker as you can and allowing our boys to get to work. Next question I have for you, sir. Unsung hero.
Unsung hero.
Before we get into fan questions. And then
I'll go
we'll
with
give
this
score
week.
predictions at the end.
Bet. The unsung hero this week. I'll go with. I think it finally happens. It's been close. It's been inching and closer every week. A broke clock is right twice a day. So I'm gonna be right at least one time this season. Luke McCaffrey. I think this is finally. I think this is the game where, because look, Jaden almost hit him
I
on
could see that
Sunday.
happening. Look, I'm sorry to cut you off. I could see that happening on the white boy. And
Yeah,
people
exactly.
commenting on
White on white
white
crime.
crime. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that this will be the Luke McCaffrey game. I think he'll come up with a clutch catch or two on third down, maybe a clutch red zone catch, extend the drive, um, maybe like a clutch catch before the half or the end of the game to get us some field goal range to get some points on the board, something like that. But I think that this is the game where he gets 3 or 4 catches, maybe 60, 70 yards, and 1 or 2 of those catches are going to be clutch, game-changing potential type catches.
I think this is the Quan Martin unsung hero game. He's been great this season. Jeremy Chin has been
Yeah.
really playing well, doing a fantastic job covering tight
Hey,
ends.
that man.
He's got another big matchup this week going against Dallas Goedert, obviously. And he's doing a very good job. But that's somebody I'd almost want to, in certain situations, key him in on Saquon just because of the body size of what Saquon provides you and just pure strength out of his lower base. Somebody like Jeremy Chin, who almost matches that physical ability, you and the speed aspect of it, you obviously leaking out of backfield type stuff. But I think Quan Martin could be the unsung hero in the sense of if Philly does try to go deep, if Quan is able to shade over, get one over top, kind of like Jeremy Chin did in this past game. But I think Quan Martin might be that guy. He needs to solidify that tackling just a little bit more. He's done a great job this season. But this is one of those games where you want Quan to kind of put a stamp on things. He's the one guy back there that hasn't really, even though he forced that fumble on the goal line, just like you need that game, right? He's been heating up. I think this is the Quan Martin unsung hero game. Now, the question that we have, first one of the night from the Colonel. He says, I'm not going to lie, gents. The Pittsburgh loss stung. We should have won this game. I was much more accepting of the Tampa Bay and Baltimore losses. Which outcome is more likely? We're going to crash and burn like the Chicago Bears after our Hail Mary win, or we're going to pick up the pieces, beat the Eagles Thursday night, and win the NFC East. What is
I
more
would say,
likely?
yeah, I would say more likely would be the second one. I don't think that a guy like Dan Quinn or Cliff Kingsbury, definitely not Joe Witt, or any of these guys on the coaching staff, any guys in this front office, a guy like AP, they preach competitive, they preach competitiveness. I think that, obviously everybody in the locker room is bought into Dan Quinn and his message. They got nothing but competitors in that room, so I don't think that they would be as, I don't want to put that. I don't think they would be as weak minded. I don't want to say weak minded, but I would say like weaker minded as far as like we're gonna hold on to this like loss. We're gonna let this loss roll into the next game. And also, I would say that a lot of those people in the Bears locker room have lost the faith in a guy like Matt Eberflus.
Crazy. It's
And
almost like somebody told you that was going to happen. Why would you draft a quarterback to a coach that you know is not going to last very long? And now you have to now you have to hire a coach who likes your quarterback, i.e., Dan Snyder-esque way of
yep,
doing business.
exactly.
Please continue. I'm sorry.
So yeah, I think that all the reports out there that guys in the locker room are really kind of lost faith in him. He's lost the locker room. You can kind of see it. Like, if you watch that game against the Patriots this past week, it didn't look like guys were like really out there like that wanted to fight for their coach or really like really was buying into what he's really preaching. So it's a complete opposite here in Washington. Everybody's bought in. So I don't have any type of doubt in my mind that they're going to come out ready to go, fired up, and be energized and rejuvenated for this game, even though it was a quick turnaround. So I would say the second option is the most likely. Doesn't mean that they can't come out and still get take an L to Philly, lose by two possessions, two scores, whatever it may be. But I do think that they're not going to come out flat. They're not going to come out and let the loss to Pittsburgh that they should have probably won linger. It's on to the next week. They got a lot of veterans in that room. Been there, done that. I think they're good.
First things first, I do want to say this. That's whatever's happening in Chicago, I'll tell you right now, I don't think the blame is on Shane Waldron. What that is the domino effect. We saw that from years past with Washington, where Jay Gruden wouldn't hire like Wade Phillips as DC because he didn't want somebody to outshine him. Because if he were to get fired, you'd feel comfortable with Wade Phillips stepping in. In that sort of breath, this is Ryan Poles being behind Eberflus. They can't fire the head coach midseason. You still need to finish it out. You still need to make fans rah rah. So you get rid of the guy you just hired, not even a year ago, who's dealing with a rookie quarterback, who the GM supplemented a bunch of wide receiver assets into, said make it work, and because everything's not working, they fire that guy because maybe the players are talking about him. Basically, my whole point is Ryan Poles might be on his way out, and this is a domino effect of what's happening here. They have a guy named Ian Cunningham who's ready to be nominated to be the head GM, and he's just sniffing there, waiting for that to happen. That's all I'm saying. That
If
being said,
he's smart, because I don't think they're going to fire Ryan Poles this year. If Ian Cunningham is smart, he'll be like, I'll take
he
a GM
should.
job somewhere else because this is a sinking ship. And if you really look at the track record of that organization, which we know a lot about this, as a bad organization for the most part. So does Ian Cunningham really want to be a part of that, or does he want to go somewhere else, start fresh with maybe a better organization?
And that's why you get rid of Ryan Poles to keep Ian Cunningham in house.
Yeah, that's
Is my
true.
point.
Yeah, that's true.
To answer the Colonel's question, what is more likely? Given that we haven't seen Lattimore yet, given that the bye week is in week 14, right? The Bears don't have that luxury. They had their bye week ahead of us, the week ahead that we played them. Given that the injuries are turning their heads around a little bit, I think it's more likely that Washington wins, not because of who they're playing in the NFC East. I also think because where they are right now, they were in the driver's seat most of the time anyway. So I think it's more than likely that's the case. But because of the bye week being there, getting the guys back off in the injury report, I think it's way more likely that they win Thursday night and win the NFC East, given the circumstances permitting. Obviously, you laid it out great with Dan Quinn, the whole mindset, the culture. I don't think Joe Witt and company are the type of people just to lay down like they're fighting always to get better. They don't have a chance to just give up, right, in that sense. And that's what's very much different from Chicago and here, besides the quarterback being a really great person and really personally driven, obviously.
Also, he's just better.
Yes. But I don't want to get into it. It's not fair. I mean, it is what it is. I feel bad for Chicago. We've been there
No,
many, many
I
times.
feel like Caleb will bounce back because I feel like the next coach will actually do kind of what Cliff Kingsbury has did with Jaden here, which is, hey, what are you best at? Let me mold the offense around what you're best at. That's what every good coach has done over the past years. That's what well, I'm not gonna say every. That's what majority of coaches, especially on the offensive side of the ball, do over the years. It's I'm not gonna wish. Again, we know a lot
I don't
about
want
this.
to talk about this.
I
I
know.
really
All right,
don't
let's
care
go.
about Chicago. But my only rebuttal would be early on in that season they allowed Caleb to run around, do what he did at USC. Numbers weren't doing all that well. They switched it up, right? But to the Colonel's question, that Hail Mary destroyed their morale. I mean, that
Yeah.
just completely cut the legs out from under them, and they haven't responded since. And I think it's much more so of a confidence thing than it is about schematic, which is why I laughed about the Shane Waldron thing. Just that being said. Now, the next question from the Colonel. How much of a factor was the absence of B-Rob against the Steelers? We can't complain about missing our kicker. Zane killed it. We can complain a little bit about the offensive line injuries. But what was the difference without B-Rob?
Um, I would say B Rob's like obviously a little bit more. He's a bigger back than a guy like Eckler. He's a little bit more physical guy than Eckler. He can probably maybe some of the little like I want to say arm tackles, but some of the stuff that Eckler was getting wrapped up by, maybe B-Rob shakes one of those off and keeps going. But uh, yeah, I mean the Steelers is a good defense. They're a really, really, really good run defense. They play really good sound defense as far as like gap integrity and whatnot. So I'm not gonna say that like B-Rob wouldn't have made a difference, but they've stifled teams for the most part all season. And do I think B-Rob would have made the run game better? Yes. Do I think that it would have helped the offense out and made a little bit more easier for Jaden and the offense, a little bit more rhythm to the offense? Yes. But as far as like how much of a uh, help it would have been, who knows? It probably would have got us the win because we probably would have controlled the clock a little bit more. So that was probably the biggest thing that we missed with B Rob is once he gets going and really starts like getting to a rhythm, that's when we start controlling the clock. That's when Jaden is a little bit better in the run game as well, as far as like the RPO and the run option stuff. So that's what I say. We missed with B Rob being not being out there.
Well, obviously, everyone's going to tell you it's the power running game, right? But I think ultimately what it comes down to, the kernel, what was the difference, is we talked about after the Ravens game, where what you essentially have, what you embody as an offense and running, is what also can bludgeon you on defense because that's what you face every day. It's just naturally how things work out. And so I think because of that Najee Harris, that kind of mindset offensively, I think that's ultimately what could have done Pittsburgh in a little bit more. Because if you go back and look about those negative plays, a lot of the times Austin Eckler's getting hit in the backfield, right? And so he's getting brought down. He had more on his plate than usual. Austin Eckler is getting up there in age, freak athlete, can lift more than four of me's, okay? But that being said, obviously he might have gotten worn down just a little bit. Whereas if B Rob is in there playing and they're splitting the carries, maybe Austin Eckler has a little bit more step under his feet and able to move out of that tackle. Or B Rob's literal body mass and weight has enough strength to be able to get off of that to get it back to at least even on the yardage of line of the game. And so I think that a lot goes into it, and just being able to fight through those tackles against those bigger guys. Austin Eckler has done a great job this season at it, but my whole point being is Austin might have been benefiting from B-Rob being there, so he wasn't as worn down. When those happen, he was able to wiggle out of them. And so ultimately, I think B-Rob just helps everybody involved, just with that power game, making something out of nothing, being able to make you manageable just a little bit more, but also giving the lightning aspect to Eckler, because obviously that was not evident against the Steelers. But we're moving ahead.
I would say also we've had a lot of success with when they line up Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson in the backfield together because at that point you got Jaden back there, you got Austin Eckler, and you got B Rob. So you got a triple kind of like running threat as far as like the defense has to look out for. You got B Rob who can catch out the backfield. You got Austin Eckler who can catch out the backfield, and you got Jaden who's a hell of a passer. So I think it was a lot of the more of the creativity that Cliff could work with as well was definitely
Fair.
missed out there.
Yeah, and one thing I will say, this probably might be thought of as like a conspiracy theory, but I think the Ravens kind of picked up on this, and that's one of the main reasons they went heavy after Derrick Henry. Because like one thing that we've heard GMs and Dan Quinn and others say, you build your team in order to win the division, right? And one way that the Ravens could be looking at it is we got to be able to get it past the Steelers. One way to do that, we saw what Joe Mixon was able to do when he faced those teams, being the bigger, thicker guy, being able to have that power running game, might be able to help them get over the top. And that's one reason why they brought him. One reason why B-Rob might have been better for the offense overall, but I loved your point about the creativity as well. Obviously, it takes things out of your playbook to a point. Now, the next question was submitted by the Colonel. Am I looking at our postseason strategy by our stellar GM? Saving B-Rob, Lattimore, etc. for a postseason run? You
Um,
kind of highlighted that.
yeah, I don't think it's really saving them for a postseason run. I think they're just saving them until they can get healthy. I mean, if Lattimore woke up tomorrow, hamstring was fully healthy or healthy enough, he got out there and practiced and was good to go. I'm pretty sure they would put him out there on Thursday. So I think it's definitely more on the side of like they want to save guys for that stretch run because I think obviously at this point they know I'm not going to say they're assuring for the playoffs because anything can happen, but more
Yeah, I
than
wouldn't.
likely, Huh?
I wouldn't. Like, Dan Quinn has even said that whenever he talks to the team, they're talking 1 week at a time.
Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah. That's
wants
what
to
I'm saying.
embrace. He wants to stay in that bubble of that week because they don't want to be looking ahead. They don't want to miss things.
I
And
mean, like a guy like AP, who's like, God, he has to have the bigger picture in mind. Like, he's thinking like, okay, what can we do to like make ourselves a little bit stronger for the now and also for the future? Because again, a lot of people are just looking at this like, oh, we made this move because the Eagles have AJ Brown. We need a number one corner. Okay, that might be true, yes, but we're also looking at it like, okay, you face a team like San Francisco. Whenever Brandon Ayuk and Debo are out there, those guys are a deadly combo. When you got the Rams, if they make it to the playoffs, you got Puka Nakua, Cooper Cup, deadly combination. Seahawks, if they can somehow squeak in. Tyler Lockett getting up their age, but still pretty damn good. DK Metcalf, a bigger receiver. So I think they're looking at it like, and also, again, planning down the line as far as like that takes a need per se as far as free agency, maybe in the draft, whatever it may be. But I think that like I said, it's more of if they could play on Thursday, then they'd be out there 100%. I do think B Rob would be out there. But if Lattimore doesn't play this Thursday and maybe he goes against Dallas, maybe he comes back after the bye week, whatever it may be, as long as he's in form, knows what he's doing on defense, and hitting his stride when it really counts, which is January football and hopefully into the playoffs, that's when I'll really want him to be out there and ready to go.
I don't think it's based on postseason run. I truly do not. And just to rebuttal you, this is why I love Arch because he thinks like I do, but he goes an extra gear in making me think because we got into the conversation of how do you get a lockdown corner. And one of the things I said was you either got to pay a crazy amount in free agency, like Jalen Ramsey with the Miami Dolphins sort of thing, or you have to be bad enough to get one in the top 10 of the draft. Obviously, right now, Washington is looking at themselves saying we're not going to be in a position to get a lockdown corner in the draft, and that's a far shot in itself. So the other avenue, option three, is by trading for one. And that's why everyone continues to talk about the long-term vision of getting Lattimore to the point where you now have that number one corner that is essentially locked down.
Yep.
You're not paying him a crazy amount. Obviously, the Saints have picked up his tab this year, and then it's non-guaranteed money out there, so you could talk about a restructuring. But to the Colonel's question, do I think it's for the postseason run? No. In my conspiracy-headed mind, reading the tea leaves, watching the interviews, I think this much more so goes into the communication defensively in the secondary. I think getting Lattimore up to speed is more important to them. Obviously, the hamstring might be legit, 100%. But if he doesn't play on Thursday, I don't. I think it's more credence that he's not on like 100% on level with the communication in the secondary because you got to think about it from a defensive coordinator standpoint. If I'm sending out Lattimore, it's great that he's doing his job. But if a call goes out, because they have a bunch of communication in the secondary, if he's not getting a call that somebody else is, that's 6 points. And we saw that early on in this season. And we saw it last season where the miscommunication will blow things wide open. So I think the communication aspect is probably what is a big driving force behind this if he does not play Thursday. I obviously respect the hamstring and the injury there. That is going to 100% be a concern. But I think at this point, being a divisional game, you're playing for the NFC East. Do I think that Lattimore's injury is so bad to the point where they don't feel comfortable playing him in that sort of matchup? I don't think so. I think Lattimore himself would probably be biting at the bit to get on the prime time, this be his debut, but it's much more so of the liability aspect of the communication and what could possibly derive from it. But I wouldn't be surprised if he suits up on Thursday. I know that's crazy to say, but we've seen them play these games. They did it with Jaden Daniels. That week he got injured, right? The next week he was do not practice, did not practice. He didn't show up on that. He was limited in the non-media portion, right? He was in the bubble throwing. They play these sort of games, and we have to understand that. And I'm just saying, wouldn't surprise me all that much. It's just I think it's much more so of the communication, and once he's up to speed, he's going to be kicking the tires and getting going. I don't think if you start allowing AP to dictate who's on the field in these sort of really crucial matchups in terms of what's going to be going on in the postseason, you've already lost in the postseason. And we already know that from a football team aspect. It's all about that week. And what do you need to be like? We've heard Joe Witt say this. We've heard Dan Quinn say this. I want the best team out there on that day. If you're not going to make the team better, I'm not going to put you out there. I'm going to have the best guys out there that are possibly ready to go. And that's why I truly believe in that. I truly do. Now, the next question that we have, this one was submitted on Twitter by our boy, Tony Franchise. And I guess I got him riled up a little bit, Hall. He said, I know last pod, Kyle said he hates the Steelers, but something the Eagles completely irks me, sometimes more than Dallas. So which NFL team do you hate the most?
Philly. I hate the Eagles. I hate their fans. Majority of their fans. Some of their fans are cool, but majority of their fans are just the normal like Philly, like a what do you call it? Stereotypical Philly person where they're just loud, obnoxious, in your face, just da 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 da. When they're winning, they're the most obnoxious person ever. When they're losing, they're the most obnoxious person ever. So I would say that Philly, just because, yeah, and they're closer than like Dallas. Like Dallas fans, obviously, are everywhere, but Philly fans, I feel like they're more prevalent, and they've been out in, no pun intended, flocks a lot more lately, as far as like the DMV goes, and like Dallas fans talk, yeah, but they don't really like talk like that anymore. Philly fans are the ones that are constantly just talking and
Well,
talking
they're
and
good
talking.
right now. When the Cowboys were good, dude, they were talking and they were
Exactly, but
talking.
even like last year, the past couple of years when they've been winning 12 games, 12 games, like I feel like a lot of like Dallas fans have like just come to realize that like we're like never gonna do nothing in the playoffs, so they've kind of like tempered like the talking down. Philly people, they're the new Dallas. It's oh we're going to the Super Bowl. Oh we're the division
Yeah,
champs. It's our year. Da, 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 da. So Philly can't stand them.
yeah, you give them one Super Bowl, and this is
Yeah,
what
you're
happens,
right.
right?
Can't give them anything.
Well, with Philly, it's almost different because the Philly fans that I know, like Nick Navarro, like Tanner Rublik, like they are really great guys. They're not the type to get in your face. They'll actually tell you, "I think you guys are gonna win today." I'll say you're smoking crack. You know, I've said that before. Um, but like with Philly, it's different because like spilling beer on Clinton Portis's mom, you know, doing things like bringing the fans brought at the tailgate. They brought out the Sean Taylor. They brought out a casket and put Sean Taylor's
Yeah.
jersey on it, and then their 76ers basketball or the guy that was from Philly was at that game, an NBA player, started whooping their ass. Like literally at the tailgate for it, which is what they deserve.
What was his name? He had all them tattoos, like all
Yeah,
the emoji tattoos. I forget his name.
I love that guy for
Michael
doing that.
Scott. I want to say something like that. But yeah.
And so, like, our hate for Philly is obviously immense just because of the actual aspect of just the group of it all. And so, like, nothing makes me more happy when Washington beats Philly in Philly because those people deserve to pay all that money to sit there and watch that happen. They deserve to blow up the radio stations the next day. They don't deserve nice things. And so I love to see them upset. I know you shouldn't be thinking that way, as a person, a follower of Christ. I'm just saying, I get a smile on my face when we do beat them in Philly because it's amazing to watch. And I took the Colonel to a game at FedEx last year where we were playing the Eagles. Obviously, it was 2 years ago, and there were Eagles fans sitting behind us, and I stood up the whole game. The whole game. Not because I was very excited or overly excited, just because I didn't want them to have a good time. You're not going to come into my stadium and just have a fantastic time watching your team win. You're going to have a ugly mother standing in front of you, and you're just going to look at my ass the whole time. That's what's going to happen. So I dislike the Eagles very much so. Personally, like the Steelers thing is a different aspect. Like I should have been a Steelers fan. Like my whole family, the running side, they're from Pittsburgh. My grandfather moved us here from Pittsburgh, so I could have easily been that kind of guy that said, "Oh, I'm a Steelers fan. My family's from there. They moved down there to here to DC."
And
No,
they
no,
were good back then.
no. One of the last pictures we have of my grandfather is him standing at FedEx Field. My dad still has it in his house. So like we're obviously Washington through and through. I'm just saying, it's the Steelers. Obviously, they're up there. Eagles are obviously up there. The Cowboys is a different level. I mean, that is just I don't want anything good to happen. Like nothing. Like every single like the fact that Jerry built that stadium, knowing that sun was going to be protruding, having the NFL schedule them those 4:30 games for that reason, and then to have it bite them in the butt in games is pure, just chef's kiss. You
That
love to
is
see
pretty
it.
good.
You would love to see it. They deserve it. Jerry deserves it. Jerry deserves the embarrassment. And they ask him like why he can't put some up. He's like, "You want me to tear down the stadium?" Installing shades ain't that hard, dude. They make window film. You can easily do it to stop the
Right.
sunlight from coming in, bro. What are you talking about?
Isn't it also like a retractable roof or something like that? So
Yeah.
like just close the roof.
He's like, "You want me to build a new stadium?" Dude,
Yeah,
just
no.
put shades up.
Blow
What are
this
you
one
talking?
up and build another one then.
We got some
That's
blinds for you. We could ship out to you guys. Put
I
Dak to
love
work.
Jerry
You know what I'm
Jones
saying?
when he's like all mad and gets snarky. He's like, blow it up and build another one then.
Right. Like honestly, I don't really hate like the opposing fans or anything like that too much. Like I really respect the Browns fans. I honestly before this season I really respected Chicago fans because they were very similar to us where their
Yeah.
real great years were in the 80s. They haven't been able to get a franchise quarterback ever just like us. But with all the talking this year with them being so emotionally castrated on what was reality or not because they needed the reassurance is like that just proved it all to me. Is like you have way too many kids in your fan base talking, man. I know you guys need to rope those guys in.
It's called projecting because they want what we have. They're
Yes,
projecting.
and they can't. Now the next question that we have, this one was submitted in the Discord, sir, by Tim Towner. We sit at 73, 7-3 with remaining games. There's Philly, Dallas, and Tennessee, then a bye, followed by New Orleans, Philly, Atlanta, and Dallas. That said, what is our final record and do we make the playoffs? I don't want to do this. I want to keep it week by week. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even do preseason predictions for this reason. I just wanted to take it week by week and enjoy this freaking thing. All I'm going to say is we're 7-3 right now. We're finishing 14-3, bro. That's it.
I'll say that
14-3.
I'll probably say they're going to be 11-6, maybe 12-5 if they can split with Philly. I think that they can beat Tennessee. I think they can beat New Orleans. I think they can sweep up Dallas twice, just with all the chaos going on and Dak being injured and whatnot. And really, it just comes down to can you sweep Philly, or are you going to split with Philly, or are you going to get swept by Philly? So I would say 11, with the possibility of 12 wins if they can split with Philly.
Absolutely love it. Now, the next question by Tim Towner. I think the trend identified versus New York is to rush 5 against us. New York did it 12 times. Pitt did it 19. Will Philly follow suit? And what would you suggest to address this? Run more 2 tight end sets or maybe empty or run a lot of quick pass?
See, all right. So New York did it a lot. You're right, and maybe the first, like they did it the first game or second game.
Second.
Second. So second game, we moved the ball on them decently well. Like it was a pretty good offensive game, and so yeah. As far as like that goes, I think that Jaden can beat the Eagles defense because even the Eagles or even the Giants have I would say probably a slightly better defense overall as far as like the pieces they have. It's just Philly has guys that are better at their positions than what New York has, but I feel like New York has a better defense like as a whole. But I would say that Jaden, I feel like he will be able to beat the 5-man pressures from Philly because at the end of the day, like I said, Pittsburgh is a really, really good defense, or a really, really good, a really disciplined defense. They face Lamar Jackson twice a year, so they know how to defend against a guy that can get out the pocket, scramble, a guy that uses his legs in the running game as well. He's active in the running game as well. So they know what they're going into with that. They were coming off of a bye week, so they had 2 weeks to prepare for our offense. So I just think that if teams want to, and Jaden's been pretty nails against the blitz all year for the
Mm-hmm.
most part. So I think that, and again, we talked about with Brian Robinson. I think that Brian Robinson getting into the game, coming back, getting the running game going will also help with those 5-man pressures because at some point, once they start stacking the boxes trying to stop the run, that's when Terry, whoever else is going to kill them deep or in the passing game. Once the boxes get lighter, that's when you can get the running game going again. So, and maybe and again, Jaden's been nails against the blitz all season, or the pressures all season, minus this Steelers game because again, Steelers are really, really, really good at what they do. They've been doing it for many, many years. That's a veteran laid defense that's been in that system for a while. So I have no doubt that Jaden will be able to. Not he's not going to do it every time, but for the most part, he'll be able to beat a 5-man pressure, 6-man pressure, blitzes, wherever they're coming from. I have faith that Jaden will have a, even though he didn't have a bad game, I think he'll have a stellar game coming out here on Thursday night.
Yeah, and obviously I've said this many, many times, but on defense, there, offensively speaking, regardless of what you're in, there is an outlet to beat you. And it's the offense's job to, on every given play, see what the defense are doing and be able to find that hole. And Tom Brady was obviously masterful at this sort of thing. If they're rushing five a great amount, that immediately tells me that you attack that area that they are blitzing from. Now they have 6 in coverage. So if you're sitting in a 3 wide out right, that means there's 3 extra guys out there. So in my personal opinion, that's when you start hitting with the screens. That's when you go to that Diami Brown the outside. Not that trickery. Just get upfield, bro. Let's just get extra yardage. Let's kill them with it to the point where they have to chill out on it. The other aspect is if they're playing press man and you don't feel comfortable with that screen playing press man, having those guys up on you, that's when you start doing those mesh concepts. And that's when you allow Terry's free release inside, allow him to navigate upfield like we saw this last game, and also going deep in that regard. If you're going to play press on Terry, let's go ahead. Quinyon Mitchell, I have a lot of respect for that young man. Watched him in pre-draft process. He can ball in cold weather, too. He's a very good corner. But that's where I want to be able to stress that and put my finger on that and force that in because, if yes, you want to send pressure at us, you think that's a good thing to do, please do. We're going to find that outlet and we're just going to continue moving up the field. It's much more so about Jaden being calm, cool, relaxed in that situation, finding that outlet and being able to move the ball upfield. You can also bring in the fact of B-Rob and Eckler out of the backfield, doing that chip turnaround and then getting upfield, get the extra yardage because most likely that blitzer, that guy's not going to be as close as he should be. And so you can kind of get more yardage that way. I'm not talking about home runs here, but much more so just when they send the blitz, it's debilitating. If you're sending a blitz to somebody and they pick up a quick gain on you and now they are on second and short after you sent the blitz, every time you send that blitz from there on out, it's going to be less and less effective if you're able to continue chipping away at it, and that's where it comes into play. So,
I
great
would
question.
I would also say sometimes it just comes down to like as simple as it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmys and the Joes.
Yeah.
And the Pittsburgh Steelers got Alex Highsmith, T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward. I forget their fourth defensive lineman, but he's a beast.
Kenyon
Uh,
Benton.
yeah, Benton and Patrick Queen, who's a hell of a linebacker that can go sideline to sideline. The Eagles, yes, they have a couple guys here and there. They got a couple pieces. Jordan Davis. Um, what's the dude on the outside? What's it called? What's the dude they just drafted last year?
Joey Porter.
No, the dude they just drafted last year. The Philly Eagles. Bar.
White
The
boy?
defensive tackle from Georgia. They just drafted last year.
Oh, crap. Don't make me think about that.
I forget his name, but anyway,
Yeah.
they got some guys up front that can like definitely hurt you, but at the same time, they're not T.J. Watt, they're not Highsmith, they're not Cam Hayward, and they definitely don't got a Patrick Queen that's back there can go side. They do have a pretty good defensive linebacker, but he's not Patrick Queen. So I think that Jaden is a superior athlete to those guys as opposed to like guys that have been doing this for so long and they know how to rush a guy, they know how to play a certain technique, how to box a guy into the pocket. They know not to. They're so disciplined that they're not gonna step out of their rush lane and let a guy like Jaden slip out of there. So I think that the Steelers had a way better game plan than the Giants, and I think that Philly are gonna have.
Yeah, and they obviously they had a lot of experience facing that as well, and obviously the Eagles do as well. But just saying that there's a big difference there. And lastly, I will say running the football effectively really takes away that pressure rate.
Yep.
Pittsburgh was able to do it more because we were in a lot more long third down and distances. If
Yep.
you're able to run that football on them and continue to keep those short, less time for them to be able to send those blitzers at Jaden. Obviously, we welcome it. Just saying, be prepared for it. Get the ball in the first and second down. Move up the field as much as you can, so that way we don't have to depend on the refs to make a great spot. Now, the next question by Jeff Miles. Can we still be an effective offense without B-Rob running the ball and JD running less, whether it's play design or his injury? While we still put up 27 points Sunday, can we win with that game plan? Let's do rapid
Yeah,
fire.
I think we can. You saw that they could have won with the game plan that they had just past week. They've won without B-Rob before, as far as like, I mean, I know Arizona was like a bloodbath and was kind of over once B-Rob got injured, but you saw McNichols step up. You've seen C-Rod step
Eckler
up,
was
and
injured for that game.
Eckler was injured. Yeah, sorry, but I'm saying B-Rob was out like in the third and fourth quarter, something like that. But they
I
were
know.
also
Yeah,
up. They were also up so by a lot, so it didn't really matter.
yeah.
But anyway, you've seen McNichols step up in different situations throughout the year. You've seen obviously Austin Eckler, who gets playing time anyway, a lot of reps anyway. But you've seen him step up this year. You've seen Chris Rodriguez, when his name has been called, hop in there and step up. So I think they can still be able to run the ball effectively. I think that, again, Philly's not going to present the same type of stress to the offense that Pittsburgh did, as far as like keeping Jaden contained in the run game. So I don't have any doubts that he'll be a little bit more active in the run game on Thursday. And yeah, I forget what else I was going to say. So I don't know. It might come back to me.
You're good, Jeff. And yeah, they can't win at this point. We've seen that they are productive
Oh,
enough that
yeah.
they can do it. Now the next question we have is this from Tony Shivers. Just for fun, since online Bears fans were so arrogant, thoughts on them firing their OC going into the season? All the analysts said no rookie has ever entered into a better situation for success than Caleb. Hall, would you like to address that question, sir?
Yeah. Hey, look, coaching matters. Clearly, we see coaching matters. You can have all the weapons in the world, but if you don't got the right coaches around you, putting you in the best position to make plays and do what you do best, then obviously you're going to fail. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I already thought Jaden was better than Caleb anyway, but the stuff that Caleb was doing in college, as far as like running around, doing in circles, da 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 da. I mean, I thought that would be like, I knew he would do it, but I didn't think he was still going to like do it like this much to this extent. But at the end of the day, I think that the offensive line that they talked about last year, that coming into this year, is a lot worse than they were last year.
It's not.
And but it's also like, again, it comes back to coaching. I feel like coaching is the biggest problem with the Bears right now, and obviously they think they might have fixed the situation, but it's also like you said, it's going to suck for them because now he's going to have to learn a whole new offense, all new terminology. Guys on the offense are a year older. Some guys might even be there next year. Contract situations, da 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 da. So at the end of the day, yeah, he's gonna have to start from scratch, and they're gonna have to start from day one install all over again. And hopefully, he takes these steps that Jaden has this year, next year. We'll see.
Yeah, it's an excuse to blame the offensive line, to say the offensive line is the reason for the struggles.
No, but it also goes back to coaching as well.
I'm saying overall.
Yeah,
I remember getting an argument with you about Brandon Ayuk and talking about we brought up the Bears and what they were able to do in giving Caleb weapons. And I distinctly remember saying by week 10, one of those wide receivers is going to be pissed off. Guarantee it, given the situation with the rookie quarterback. Yeah, you want a bunch of weapons, but there's only one football. Fact of the matter is
but you
I've
can't
talked.
even like get them to football. That's the problem.
Yeah,
And that goes back to the offensive coordinator and coaching.
it's the accuracy. He is
Mm.
very, very inaccurate. Bill
He's
Belichick.
also holding on to the ball a lot, which it goes
He
back to the
shouldn't be.
coaching.
He shouldn't be throwing that much. This
You're
is
right. They
why
should no, no. That's my point. It goes back to the
Washington.
coaching. They should be running the ball. You're right. They should be running the
Thank you.
ball, and it goes back to coaching because guys that are way smarter than me, like Dan Orlovsky, the ESPN people, FS1, da 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 da, whoever that watch the tape, crunch the film, they're all like, I don't even know. There's no like, there's no. They're all asking why are you doing this, Shane Waldron? As far as like, like a play caller says, I'm calling this play because X, Y, and Z to attack this defense. When they see the stuff that Shane Waldron is like dialing up and calling, there's no like rhythm to it. It's kind of like Scott Turner. He's kind of just calling plays to call plays. There's no like actual reason behind the play or like why you're doing it, why you're attacking the defense this way. It's just a bunch of go out and do it, and hopefully Caleb makes a play. So that's why I said it's really the coaching.
I think it's a convenient excuse.
No, no,
Now,
no. I'm not making excuses.
no, I think that's a convenient excuse for
Uh,
Caleb for that organizational structure for bringing in the wide receivers, just like Joe Douglas and the Jets firing Salah. I think this is another thing for them to take the heat off the GM for the decisions that were made. It was poor in the first place. You add in three number one wide receivers, and now you have an issue because your quarterback is unable to orchestrate the offense in a way because you're trying to plug all these things because you have those assets divulged into it. And so you have to keep everybody happy, which is a
We
huge
also
concern. Cole Kmet should be the one that you're running through. Run the ball well, Cole Kmet first, and then dish it out to your wide receivers, almost like Washington has done this season. But that being said, I'm too much time with Chicago. I'm done with them. Now, last question we have: How happy by Arch? How happy are you for the quick turnaround to Thursday as fans? I am so excited for this game.
yeah, I'm definitely excited for the game. I mean, honestly, any week when I got to wait Sunday to Sunday to watch the team, I'm like, hurry up and get here Sunday. Which, I mean, even when they were like been bad and losing, I would still get the same like I want to watch the team, I want to watch them play. But now that they're good, they're better, and everything is like it's like a whole new day and age in Washington now. I am excited to watch them week in, week out, day in, day out. Excited for the quick turnaround. Excited to see them come out and fight their asses off against Philly.
Very, very happy because it was much easier to get over the loss just as a stupid idiot sitting on the couch like the whale watching these games, enjoying my great food that I make like some chips or whatever have you. Like I'm just saying that like just in the sense of you can't just sit here and worry about it because you got another huge matchup for the NFC East in the division. So the quick turnaround being a divisional opponent with the way that game ended obviously was huge. And that's why I am very happy about it because now I have something else to get excited up for, looking ahead for, prepping for, looking at things, how things could divulge and build up. And so, yes, I'm very happy that it's a short week and that we're able to see them on Thursday night. I'm not excited about waking up at 3:30 on Friday morning after we record post game, but look, it's worth it at this point. This season has been amazing. It's been magical. I'm not gonna miss any second of it. There won't be any crying from me on Friday. All I'm saying is Friday's probably gonna suck. Now the next, if we win, it's gonna be a different story though. Obviously, I'm gonna be have a tail out of my ass. Now, last question from Arch. I'm not sure, or should we do pregame predictions? Because we kind of talked about this already. Is who is more important to slow down, AJ Brown or Barkley? I think we both kind of said Barkley.
Barkley, yeah.
Yeah, that might be stupid to say, but just in the term of not being able to bleed the clock out, keep Jaden Daniels off the field, we want to be able to keep them in those long
Well, I
third
feel
down
like
situations.
also that I feel like whenever Barkley gets going, he's ripping off 8 yard runs, 10 yard runs, spinning off dudes, doing this, doing that, doing what Barkley does. It gets everyone on the sideline juiced up. It gets the stadium juiced up. It gets the offense like juiced up and into a rhythm. So yeah, definitely got to stop Saquon because literally he is the heartbeat and the soul and the rhythm of that offense. Everything goes through him.
We talked about this being like an abbreviated episode. We're at 57 minutes, so
I know,
let's do our prediction.
right?
Let's do our prediction for this game. So let me rip off the stats real quick. The Commanders are 16th on offense in red zone conversion percentage. They're third in points per game, 11th in passing yards, fourth in rushing yards. They are fifth in third down conversion percentage. They are eighth in sacks. The Eagles defense are third in red zone conversion percentage. They're tied for fifth in points per game. They're third in passing yards, fifth in rushing yards, and 10th in sacks, and 13th on third down conversion percentage. The Eagles offense, they're 10th in red zone conversion percentage, tied for seventh in points per game, 20th in passing yards, second in rushing yards, 15th in third down conversion percentage, and 23rd in sacks given up offense. Our defense, 30th in red zone, 12th in points per game, 5th in passing yards, 28th in rushing yards, 14th in sacks, and 23rd in third down conversion percentage. That being said,
Oh, where you go? So yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. Obviously, it's a huge matchup, huge game. This is the probably the other than Ravens Steelers. These are probably the two games of the week right here. Primetime game, a lot of eyes on this game. All the eyes on this game. Matter of fact, um, like you said, divisional matchup for the number one spot. I think it's going to be a tough battle. I think the spread is like Eagles 3.5, which is pretty much they're at home, so they're the favorite, plus a little bit of a hook'ems, which makes them the slight favorite. Um, yeah, like I said, I think it's going to be a tough game if you follow the trend of what they've done all season after a loss, especially a loss where they've not kind of like beat themselves, but like penalties and whatnot, stuff like that.
drops.
You, yeah, drops. You've seen that they've come out the next week, locked in, ready to go. All the stuff that plagued them the week before, they've cleaned it up and fixed that. And so I think that's going to be on Thursday night, even with the quick turnaround. And so I do think that, like I said, close game, probably going to be a tight game, come down to the fourth quarter, one of those who has the ball last type of games. I will say that I think we split with Philly. I think we lose this one. I think it'll be a 31-30 Eagles.
I think the injuries play a lot into that, but I would say if you were told me at the beginning of the season we're going to split with Philly, just a prediction sense, I would say it's going to happen where we win in Philly, lose at home.
Yeah,
It
home and
typically
away, yeah.
does go that way, but the injuries do plague it. I think one of the big keys here is getting up early on Philly, forcing them in those passing situations, them being 20th on sacks giving up on offense. I think you can get after Jalen, possibly force a turnover. Getting up early is obviously important, but finishing, Hall, to your point last episode, has been the most important aspect. Heart wins in the fourth quarter, and we have allowed teams to get back into the mix in the fourth quarter. That's the next step for this team in learning to build. So I think that it does happen. I think we win 34-30. We show that it is a very good game, but Washington is able to get up early, stay up, and then they might battle their way back a little bit, honestly. But I think Washington does win this game. I don't know why, but it's the all whites in Philly, man. And this football team, I'm always going to pick them to win, especially, I'm always like that. But fact is, they can win every game, and we know that at this point. And so this is going to be a great test for them to really put their stamp on the NFC East, to prove themselves. I'd be picking 69-0 if I didn't want to put bulletin board material for the Eagles. But I'm just going to say 34-30 to show a little bit of something. But
Hey, we can't be like the clean sweep across the board. Everyone pick them all the time. So, hey, and look,
good job.
at the end of the day, I wouldn't even be surprised if they came out and won the game 33-24 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, not like a blowout type of win, but like one of those like score doesn't really say it, but you know who won this game type of game. So,
And then the
I'm just saying,
excuses
like,
start pouring out. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
from Philly's side, yeah, of course. But no, only like you said, the only thing that factors into it with me for the most part is the injuries. Everyone's starting to get nicked up. They're starting to pile up a little bit, but yeah, I still think we split with them, but we'll see.
Yeah, and then we got a mini bye a couple of days before game week next week, obviously against
What
Dallas.
am I doing on Sunday now? I'm like lost.
Yeah, I can't wait to go see the Colonel. We're got TJ's wedding on Saturday. The wife and I are going back to Maryland. This is gonna be fun. Can't wait to see all the boys. First time seeing our friends since we moved, so really, really excited about doing that. All right, everybody, have a great, safe week. Enjoy the game on Thursday. We'll see you post-game on Thursday night. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
And I'm going to bed. Washington football. Woo!
Peace.
What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.